over the years, I've worked with a number of developers. And through that period, I've learned the three levers that developers use when it comes to determining the viability of a project. First is the acquisition cost, second is the build cost, and third, the exit. Now, one of the things I've seen is in these pro formas, builders often try and squeeze the build cost to some next near impractical numbers in order to make their margins work. And rightfully so, because this is where your project runs away. It's the most dynamic part of the project. But what if you could actually build without compromise? And I'm not talking about building cheaply, but doing things in such a way that you can actually achieve consistent results, such as $280 per square foot or better. So over the next few slides, I'm gonna showcase projects that I've done and show some receipts on things that I've been able to achieve. Now, a little bit about me. For those of you who have not had the privilege of working with or yet to meet, my name is Courtney Samuels. My company is 4Cs of Design and Build. And we run a design build practice where we provide construction management and general contracting services. We're heavily software leveraged, which is how we aggregate all our data. And it's one of the reasons why we are deliberately lean, so we can provide that value to our clients. Now, the past 13 years, we've been intent around the residential and commercial space to now being on the frontier of the missing middle. And we're end-to-end from early stage planning right through to the finished product. We're licensed by HCRA. We take, obviously, the code seriously. We're great on construction administration and contract administration. And again, next. All right, so show of hands, builders in the room. All right, not so many. Well, if any of you would like to take issue after, we could go through it, but these are three of the top areas where I see we're losing traction when it comes to the project and the build phase. First being the scope creep, which I'm gonna elaborate on more. Second is miscoordinating the project, where you lose a lot of time. And third is your vendor churn, which is where we're actually cycling through different trades, different vendors, different material suppliers, and not actually maintaining those good relationships that provide us. A lot of builders would argue that it's from the lumber prices, from the interest rates, or being tied up in city inspections, but these are the three areas where I see we've definitely dropped the ball. And it's habits that I've definitely had to get rid of myself, because I came into the industry more intently at a time when the capital was cheap and we had a lot of flexibility in our timeline. Here's a quick visual of the cost per square foot. And I've had a few conversations with a few of you outside where I've been asked, am I currently building at 410 per square foot? Now, I can't even fathom that per se at this point in time. 320 is what most developers carry in their pro formas to make the deal work. And what I target, or my company and I, we target is 280 per square foot. And this is a sweet spot for us. Now, you look at the delta, it's $130 per square foot. And across your typical 4,800 square foot project, that's well in excess of $500,000 being left on the table. To reference a time in space, arguably very challenging, but housing starts have not been the greatest. And one of the things that we've identified is in this particular time, it's a great opportunity. We're at an inflection point where acquisition cost is now overlapping with the reduction in the trade pricing. As we know, in crisis, there's always opportunity. And what we found is that there's highly skilled labor now re-entering the talent pool, and they're actually approaching us offering extensive discounts and reduced rates to get these projects to work. Now, I'm no economist, but what I've seen is and heard is that this window will not last forever. You don't have to worry about fear of missing out, but it's anywhere between 18 to 24 months, as I'm told, as a pipeline gets filled, we're going to start seeing an escalation in the labor cost again. So good time to take advantage. Now, as I said, I wanted to elaborate. So scope creep, oftentimes from oversight that happens at the construction document phase, where if not careful and not keen and not paying close enough attention to the details, things can go awry. And in other cases, it could be the client, where they're going from a prescriptive build to a more performance build. Such things as fire-rated windows, double glazed, where it could easily satisfy SB12, but they'd like to go with a triple glazed glass. Or using engineered hardwood when you could have easily gone ahead with luxury vinyl. Custom millwork, these things get banged up. You're creating rental products where people don't necessarily take particular care. Next, we have miscoordination. Now, when coordination takes place and we're looking at the schedule from everything starting from the moment you break ground to the final stroke of the paintbrush, if you're not regimented in how you maintain these schedules and not working with people who are willing to push these timelines forward, if ever there's a delay, you're going to get miscoordination. And the trades don't respond very well to untimely delays. Third, we have vendor churn, and that's a fancy way of saying having equity in the relationships. So when you have companies that are supplying you material, companies that are supplying finished products, or even the trades, it helps to maintain and sustain those relationships. Why? Because what we found is that these entities will actually expedite products to your site if you've maintained good relationships. Trades will go above and beyond and actually offer better rates when you're working with them for a long time. And even from some of the material suppliers that we've worked with, because we've given them future purchase orders, they've actually given us a rate reduction and also pushed things to site a lot sooner than we've typically received them. Now, by no means is this an exhaustive list of all the measures that we've taken, but what we've found is that when you're working with good architects, and I emphasize good architects, there's a system of how we review and we look for standardization across these projects. When we find things that are standardized, it supports us in being able to develop a rigid timeline for materials, for costing, and everything, and it works seamlessly. Value engineering, one of the things that are underrated about sourcing products and procurement, definitely helps to start sooner rather than later. Framework for subs. Now again, I spoke about maintaining great relationships, but if you include your subs early into the projects, oftentimes what you'll find is that they'll give you good rates because that's future work, that's a promise of work to come, and they'll work with you. Having a critical path. Again, coordination. We're very disciplined, very rigid when it comes to our timelines. Prefab where it pencils. Now, some of you are familiar with DFMA. I don't know if Sanjay is in the room somewhere. But if it makes sense at the time when we're looking at certain drawings, working with wall panels, obviously roof trusses, that's a standard product these days, or cassette systems that have MEPs built in could often reduce your cost, saves you a lot of time. And then, as we said before, where we work with a lot of software, is we use that to optimize our processes. So we don't leave too much to the manual process and spreadsheets anymore. Most of it is actually ran automatically through these systems. Here's a report card from one of a previous bill we did here at Kennedy and Lawrence. This is a 4+1. And you could see where some of our targeted results were exceeded. So across these 5 sectors, the structure, we actually came in a little bit less, which is great. And then we had some changes throughout the project where the client came into a bit of money and decided to splurge a bit. They wanted to enhance the facade and also upgrade some of the mechanical products, increase the what's it called, the BTU. Now, finishes, they also went a little bit higher on, and some of the site servicing and the finishes, they went with pavers instead of some regular landscaping. But you could see here where, again, within the same margins, there's a great difference by the time you get to retail. I've also had a study like this done for a laneway house that I did not far from one of Chris's projects. So I conclude to say 280 is not just a number, it's a discipline, it's a practice. It's how you regiment your project from the very start. And it's very much achievable within this asset class. And happy to have a further conversation with any of you after this presentation. Thank you.